The Mormon mommy bloggers, Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt, having their moment of reckoning in court with a sentencing that equals out to could be 4 years, could be 60 years. It's four consecutive 15-year sentences of 1 to 15 year sentences. Where that all goes and exactly how much time they'll serve is yet to be seen. But certainly the judge taking it very seriously. Joining me to discuss, attorney Eric Faddis. Why don't you enlighten us a little bit on this, where we're hearing 1 to 15 years per count consecutive. How do they end up determining here the 1 to 15 part of this on each of these counts?
This jurisdiction does it a little differently. In Colorado, the Department of Prisons or does not have the discretion to kind of decide where within a range to sentence someone. But here in this case, it appears they do. And so surely they're going to look at a number of factors. The egregiousness of the conduct, that's got to be way up there. Whether these individuals have any criminal history, and I'm not aware of any glaring criminal history for either of them, that's going to vote in their favor. The fact that they allegedly came in and took responsibility, although it's arguable what their motivations were, that's going to be taken into consideration too. But also just sort of the campaign of torture that these kids had to endure is going to result in some significant prison time. I don't think it's going to be anywhere close to the bare minimum on this one.
Yeah, I mean, so explain that to me because I didn't quite understand the 1 to 15. It's the prison system that then decides how long we keep you in here. I mean, and what do they base that on? Behavior, or is it based more on the merits of the actual case itself and what they've been convicted on?
Yeah, different jurisdictions do it differently, but oftentimes the Bureau of Prisons will monitor a inmate's behavior over time. There's something called good time. There's something called earned time, and different jurisdictions do it differently. But they're going to see how these inmates do in custody, and that could result in some sort of reduction of time on the back end. But certainly, I've got to imagine the merits of the case are going to be considered in determining exactly where within that range these folks actually have to serve a sentence.
Did they play this right? Was it the best move of what they did of making a plea deal here, and then having the judge determine the sentence rather than taking this all the way to a trial at some point?
One thing that the defendants said during their sentencing is they essentially pleaded guilty to take responsibility and to not have the children relive this horrible trauma that they've already had to endure at the hands of the defendants. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, it's are they taking responsibility? Is that going to give them some kind of benefit with whatever body ultimately decides the amount of years? Probably, to some degree, and it also does not cause that re-traumatization of the victims in the case. And so I think that was their approach to try to gain some points by doing that, and I think it will.
I mean, it was an easy one to read the tea leaves on this of like, okay, here's you want to get less time, here's how you need to present yourself. And it appears that they did listen to the advice of their attorneys as opposed to some of the other cases that we follow where it's like, I can't imagine your attorneys advising you to do this. But it seems that in this case, they very much were. Ruby Franke apologizing. You had mentioned Jody Hildebrandt, Ruby Franke saying that she apologizes. I'm humbled and willing to serve a prison sentence for as long as I need. I'm committed to unlearning my toxic behavior. I mean, yeah, it reads well, looks good on paper. Go, oh, this is a great little statement there. Someone who's capable of doing this sort of thing, though, I mean, can this really be unlearned? It's kind of one of those, how did you learn it to begin with and think that it was good to try and drown your children as a punishment?
Yeah, I mean, this is extreme behavior. This isn't some sort of like, parenting discipline that went a little too far. That this is, like I said, a kind of a campaign of torture over the course of
Hmm.
years, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So can it be unlearned? I'm optimistic about folks. I'm hoping that nearly everyone can be rehabilitated, and I don't think Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt are exceptions to that. But you've got to imagine there's something deeply ingrained that permitted them to do this. Can that ever be completely eradicated from them? That I'm not sure.
Were they equally accountable on this? I know they both got the exact same sentence. One could argue that maybe one was more of the mastermind in this than the other, and I suppose arguments can be made both ways. But what's your thoughts on that? Was this? I mean, obviously it was fair, but should it have been fair? I guess is the question.
Yeah, different legal experts see that issue differently. Some say that an accomplice or someone who provides material aid, knowing that this child abuse is going on, is just as culpable as the person who's actually committing the acts. And Jodi Hildebrandt did admit to actually committing certain acts of child abuse against the kids, so she had substantial involvement without question.
Hmm.
But I think Ruby Franke is really the ringleader here. She's the mother, and I expected her to get the book thrown at her a little bit harder than Jodi Hildebrandt in this scenario. But here we have what appear to be two equal sentences.
Yeah, it was certainly an interesting one to watch. Hopefully, they are kept away from any child for a very, very long time going forward. Hey, it's Tony Brueski. If you like the podcast, be sure to like, subscribe, and press that bell so you don't miss any of our updates on the cases we're following for you right here at the Hidden Killers podcast from True Crime Today. And thanks